Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.
Very pleased to be joined from the Action Network, one of the best in the business, Brett McMurphy. Brett, welcome back. Great to have you with us.
Hey, great to be with you again.
Okay, so let's start with the Michigan news today because it's multifaceted. Blake Corum, unfortunately, is out for the year with the knee injury. Tried to give it a go against Ohio State. And then there's the Mozzie Smith situation. What have you learned about each?
About the Smith situation, to be honest, not very much. There's a million things going on, and that's not what I'm tracking. You know, obviously losing Corey is not really a surprise, but the fact that he is officially out for the year with the knee injury, he's going to go season-ending knee surgery. Obviously, is a blow to the Wolverines. They don't think they needed him in Indianapolis this week, but certainly, you know, in the playoff, if they want to get past the first round this time, you know, having somebody with his talent would obviously be a huge boost to them. So we'll have to see how that impacts them. They were fine without him against Ohio State. I know that.
No question. Got Donovan Edwards, because when Penn State played Michigan, Jack Ham and I were doing our preview going into before we did the game, and we both said the guy to watch for was Donovan Edwards. So now let's get to So let's get to now the coaching news part of it. Florida Atlantic opened up. Cincinnati is open. What took Florida Atlantic in the Tom Herman direction?
His success at Texas and Houston. I mean, he's, 71% winning percentage. He's been to a bowl game every year. He's been to two Power 5 bowls, two New Year's Six bowls, and won those. Tom wanted to get back into coaching, and I think what makes him attractive for Florida Atlantic is, Tom was 22-4 at Houston at a group of 5, so he knows how to coach when you don't have all the resources. Obviously, you had those at Texas, but people forget he's 32-18 at Texas. Some guy named Steve Sarkisian right now, he's 2 games over 500. So,
right.
You can kind of spin it however you want, but I think they got a great coach. He's an incredibly innovative offensive mind, former offensive coordinator at Ohio State, at Iowa State. I think he'll do great there. He'll be in a conference. They're moving to the American. I think he'll be successful there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him jump back up to the Power 5 level in a year or so.
Well, it did a world of wonder for Lane Kiffin to go from there to then eventually get back to Ole Miss. That's certainly part of it right there. Next up, Cincinnati's open. There have been some talk that Brian Hartline might interview for that, the Ohio State wide receivers coach. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, he sent out a tweet basically saying, I'm staying at Ohio State. So that usually means one of two things. One, he turned down an offer, or 2, he didn't get an offer. I'm going to go with He didn't get an offer. Because this early in the game, you wouldn't come out and say that. I don't know where they're going to go. That's the most fascinating opening that's still out there, because they're making the move to the Big 12. It's obviously more attractive than it was 6 months ago, and you've Cincinnati's got that kind of that Midwestern vibe, that Midwestern feel. So does that kind of limit your candidates? Do you want to stick with or do you want to maybe go for a wild card that's not from that area? I really don't know what direction they're going to go, but it seems like they're looking at a lot of guys, in that Big Ten Midwestern footprint.
Without playing a game, Auburn got eliminated from the bowl picture today.
Yeah.
And believe me, I saw Auburn up close and personal. Better luck next year. I saw them up close and personal. They didn't deserve one. But New Mexico State did get the waiver, didn't they, Brett?
They did, yeah. And for people that remember Jerry Kill when he was at Minnesota, he just finished his first year at New Mexico State, and the Aggies will be making only their second bowl trip in 61 years. So I talked to Jerry earlier this week, and I go, you're 60-61, right? And he goes, I'm 61. And I said, so New Mexico State's only been to one bowl game since you've been alive. And he goes, well, that's one way to put it. So good news for him. And look, I know, there's a lot of people say there's too many bowls. We can debate that. But, look, I have no problem with the team that's got 5 wins, that's fighting to get to a bowl game. I'd rather see that team in a bowl than an Auburn or a Power 5 school that didn't meet their expectations and only has 5 wins. I got Texas A&M, and see them go out and play in a bowl that they don't care about. At least they're really going to care about it and have a great time.
New Mexico State and Rice, by the way, are the 2 that are now guaranteed spots. Buffalo needs to beat Akron tomorrow to get, obviously, in. If they lose, it's UNLV. So now let's get to the Penn State situation with the Rose Bowl.
You buried the lead. I thought that was like our lead segment, but go ahead.
I know it was the lead segment, but I didn't want the other stuff to get lost in the shuffle. How about that?
I understand.
Yeah, so now we're going to get to the lead, and that is Penn State. There is the caveat in the selection process. Last year, Ohio State went. They are allotted 20,000 tickets for the Rose Bowl because, as the Big Ten representative, they only sold 13. They sent 7 back. That doesn't usually happen. So how is it happening that Penn State has the door open to them to go to Pasadena?
Well, it's kind of twofold. Ohio State has kind of not so subtly let the Rose Bowl know that, maybe we should go somewhere else, and I think the Rose Bowl's fine with that. I've been told the Rose Bowl, was looking at Penn State anyway. And basically, again, if one of the top 4 teams lose and Ohio State moves up into the top 4, this is all a moot point. But actually, it's not. Excuse me. If Ohio State gets into the playoff, Penn State's into the Rose Bowl. So it looks pretty solid right now. Penn State would be in the Rose Bowl no matter what. But if Ohio State does not get into the playoff, the Rose Bowl has the opportunity to choose a team in a similar ranking neighborhood. They are not locked into the highest-ranked team if the Big Ten champ is not available. And, Ohio State would have been 3 of the past 5 years. Penn State, you may have the countdown to how many days it's been since you've been to the Rose Bowl, but it's been several years. And I think that they want Penn State. They want some new blood. More than likely, it's going to be Washington. It could be USC. So that'll be a great trip for the Nittany Lions. If somehow, some way, Penn State does not end up in the Rose Bowl, something weird happens this weekend, they're still in a great spot. They would, at that point, be headed most likely to the Cotton Bowl. The short version is the Orange Bowl takes the highest-ranked team from the Big Ten and the SEC. So if Penn State does not go to the Rose, there's probably going to be Alabama out there or someone else from the SEC that would rank above Penn State that would keep Penn State out of the Orange. But as we talk right now, these things get very fluid and change a lot in the last 48 hours. As we talk right now, I would look. If you're going to buy a plane ticket, make sure it's refundable. But I would absolutely get a plane ticket if it's refundable because I think Penn State's going to be in Pasadena, and I will be there no matter what teams are there, and it's one of my favorite bowl trips of the year.
Well, good. I'll get to see you then if that's the case.
Absolutely.
Which I'm looking forward to. So Ohio State, if form holds this weekend, is it the Orange Bowl that's the most likely destination for Ohio State?
Yeah, the Orange Bowl has to take, it's in their contract, they have to take the highest-ranked available team from the SEC, from the Big Ten, or Notre Dame after the college football playoff is filled, after the Rose Bowl picks its team, and after the Sugar Bowl picks its team. So after all those 8 teams are gone, Ohio State at number 5 is the highest-ranked available team they would automatically go to the Orange Bowl. That's not a negotiation. That's not a they can say, well, we don't want to go to the Orange. We want to go to the Cotton. They are locked into the Orange. It's different than the Rose because the Rose has the opportunity to make a choice. The Cotton does not. So there was earlier in the year when Penn State looked like they would be the highest-ranked team of those mix. I was projecting Penn State into the Orange. But now with this twist, by the Rose picking Penn State, it automatically puts Ohio State in the Orange.
Gotcha. And then
against
Tennessee
the
would probably
either Clemson or North Carolina.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And Clemson plays North Carolina this weekend. The 12-team playoff. One thing that the top 4 highest-ranked conference champions get the bye. That means Notre Dame can never get the bye under the 12-team playoff. And I have to give you credit. You threw UConn's name in there. That was I loved
come on.
That was good.
UConn and Army too. They can't get a bye.
I grew up in Connecticut. I thought that was great.
Okay. There was one person liked it. So when they determined that that's how it was going to be, the initial reaction was Notre Dame screwed. Notre Dame screwed. They can't get a bye. Guess what? Jack Swarbrick, Notre Dame's AD, was on the committee that came up with that plan. They have no issues with that. Why is that? Because Notre Dame's looking at it this way. If we're one of the top 8 teams, we will host a first-round game on campus.
Yep.
And the amount of money that will bring to the South Bend area. Number 2, if we're good enough, we're going to win that game, and now we're in the Final 8 with everybody else. Number 3, we can stay in independent and do our own thing, and we're fine with it. So they would rather stay in independent as opposed to getting a potential first-round bye and joining a conference. So Notre Dame is 100% behind this. People that think it's a negative towards Notre Dame, they're missing the boat because Notre Dame's absolutely for this and loves this. And, hey, I'm just glad we get this sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that. The contract will restart for 26. We expect multiple TV bidders at that point and multiple partners to carry it. Does that open potentially the door to 16?
No, they're going to I know I pissed off the playoff people. Yeah, I tweeted after they announced the 12 team. I said, when do we go to 16? No, they're locked in. They will be locked into 12 teams. They'll probably make it another 12-year deal. So if my Oklahoma State education is paying off here, 26 and 12, we would probably be a 12-team playoff through like 30 the 38 season. Yeah, they will not. I don't see them going to 16 until the next deal expires. You're right, though. They're going to have multiple bidders, and they will have multiple partners. The way the Super Bowl is on a different network every year, they will absolutely have multiple partners. What will be fascinating to see is it ESPN? Is it Fox? Is it NBC? Is it all of the above? Does Amazon try to get in on this? All I know is they're going to make $450 billion more by doing this. So that's why they're expanding.
I'm shocked that money's a key factor. All right.
First time ever. Money's a factor in college athletics.
I mean, you and I are in for the passion of it.
Exactly.
Brett, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Hopefully we can talk again shortly.
You got it. See you in Pasadena.